lines today. Tomorrow we're going to write the equations. Okay, so there are three forms of a line. You can write the equation of a line three different ways. You can write it in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. You can write the equation of a line in standard form, bless you, which is ax plus by equals c. And the third way you can write the equation of a line is called point-slope form, and that is y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. These are the three different ways you can write the equation of a line. Slope-intercept form comes from what's in the equation. The slope, remember, is always the m value. The intercept is our b value. It's the y-intercept, which means it's where it crosses the y-axis. Slope-intercept has the slope and the intercept in it. Standard form, ax plus by equals c. A, b, and c represent numerical values there. And you have three, what do you call them? Standards you have to meet for standard form. You can have no fractions or decimals written in the equation, so it has to be all whole numbers. The x and the y terms have to be on the left side of the equal sign, and your x term must always be positive when you have it in standard form. So like an example might be 2x minus y equals 17. No fractions or decimals. My x and y are both on the left side, and my x is positive. You could have, I don't know, 3x plus 14y equals 2. That's another equation in standard form. It's just the standard form of a line. The last way to write the equation of a line is called point-slope form. You have a point in the equation and you have the slope in the equation. Our slope is always denoted by the little m. The point would be x1, y1. This is some point on the line. So if I said the slope of a line was 2 and it passes through the origin, 0, 0, you could write the equation by putting 2 in here and then 0, 0, because it's a point on the line. We're going to do more of that tomorrow, writing of them, but we're going to recognize the form they're in today. On your notes to the right, you have a graph with 3 different lines on them. The first one, y equals 2x plus 3. Would you say that's my slope-intercept form, the standard form, or the point-slope form? Slope-intercept, yeah, so put slope-intercept in that top little rectangle. That's the slope-intercept form of a line. What would be the slope of that line? 2 over 1. Good, it's what's attached to the x value. What's the intercept where it crosses the y-axis? 3, yeah, plus 3, that's where it's crossing at. The next graph down, or next equation, says 2x minus y equals 1. What form is that? 2x minus y equals 1. Standard form, good. So in this rectangle, you would write standard form. Your x and y are on the left side, your x is positive, and there are no fractions or decimal. When it's in standard form, you can't find the slope by looking at it. You have to manipulate the equation to find the slope. Your last one there, y plus 2 equals 2 times the quantity x minus 1. What form is that? Point-slope form. What would be the slope of that line? 2, because that's where the m is it 2? And then that plus 2 and whatever is back there, minus 1, that's a point on the line. Okay? All right, so we're going to be able to recognize them today as well as graph them. There are 3 ways to graph a line. One way, it's not up there, is to use an XY chart, also called sometimes a T-table. Use them interchangeably. XY chart or T-table. This is where you pick out X values, put them into the equation, solve it for Y, and get your Y's. And then you have a point, XY. This is probably the most basic way to graph a line. The second way is using slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. This is probably everybody's favorite way to graph a line. In the end, it's the least amount of work. Slope-intercept form. Excuse me. The last way to graph a line, you don't have it on there, but would be using the x and y intercepts. And you don't have it on there because we're not going to graph them that way. You need to know how to graph the line using an XY chart and using slope-intercept form. There are 3 ways to graph it, but we're only going to do 2 this year. Okay? So your first ones are going to be using an XY chart. If you want to write these 5 steps down, I would suggest you write them in your margin. Okay, because we need this space to do the graphing. So if you want to, you don't have to, but if you want to write these 5 steps down, then put them on the left margin. The first step is to solve your equation for y. This is when you're using an XY chart. Solve for y. After you solve for y, you make the chart. Make an XY chart. So number 1, solve for y. Number 2, make the chart. After you make a chart, you pick x values to put in or substitute and solve for y. You pick 3 x values, substitute that into the equation, and then you solve it for y. What you get then is an ordered pair. You put in an x value, you get out a y value, that's a point, an ordered pair that you're going to graph on your little plane. And after you graph your 3 points, connect the dots to make a line, because we're graphing lines today. You don't have to label your points, you just need to connect the dots. Okay, so first you solve your equation for y, make an XY chart, find 3 x values, get 3 y values, graph them, and then make a line. It might look more complicated right now than it really is. Okay, try and continue to write small, because under number 1, part A, we're going to do the chart, and you have to make your own plane. So try not to get underneath of B when you're doing this. Try and split your paper in half there. So we're going to graph the equation 2x plus 3y equals 6 by using an XY chart. This line right now, 2x plus 3y equals 6, what form is that in? Standard, good. We need to get it so that y is by itself. Good, subtract 2x to the right. 3y equals negative 2x plus 6. And then divide everything by 3. And you should get y equals negative 2/3 x plus 2. You want to reduce when and if you can. Okay. After you have it solved for y, then you make your chart. 2 vertical lines and a horizontal line. You can just do a T if you want. And then we're going to pick 3 x values to substitute in. What's the best x value to plug in? 0. Good. 0 is the easiest. Now you have to pay attention to how you have it solved. Right now, our x values, when we plug them in, are going to be multiplied by a fraction. So if you don't want fractions at the end, then you need to pick x values that are divisible by the denominator. What's my denominator of my fraction? 3. So I need to pick x values that are divisible by 3. What's 1? 3. Now I need another one. 6. Good. This is going to give you whole numbers in the end. Substitute 0 in. Negative 2/3 times 0 plus 2. Well, 0 times anything? 0, so I get out 2. Substitute 3 in, so then it becomes negative 2/3 times 3 plus 2. Because when you multiply fractions and whole numbers, it's just the numerator that multiplies into the whole number. So it'd be negative 2 and 3, which would give me negative 6. And now it's negative 6 over 3, which becomes what? Negative 2. And negative 2 plus 2? 0. And then our last x value, negative 2/3 times 6 plus 2. Negative 2 times 6 gives me negative 12. Negative 12 over 3 would be negative 4. So negative 4 plus 2, negative 2. Yes, you have to show your work. Yes, it says graph using an XY chart. Graph by using an XY chart. Okay, those are your 3 ordered pairs. We put 0 in, we got 2 out. That's an ordered pair. 0, 2. We put 3 in, we got 0 out. There's another ordered pair, 3, 0. We put positive 6 in, we got out negative 2. There's your third ordered pair. Those are the 3 points you need to graph. So you're going to have to make your own x and y axis on your paper. You don't have to go out very far. Our biggest value is 6. So then give yourself 6 tick marks. You do not need to label your points. So when I go to graph our 3 ordered pairs, 0, 2, 3, 0, and 6, negative 2. Don't forget to connect them because we're graphing lines. Put your arrows on the end because lines go on forever. You need to have 3 points. Franson. No. You do not need a ruler unless you want one. You certainly can. I'm not too picky. Okay, graph using an XY chart. Solve it for y, pick 3 x values, graph those ordered pairs. We're doing it again, part B. Use an XY chart to graph the equation 5x minus 6y equals 30. I told you to write small. What are we going to do first if we're going to do an XY chart? No, what's the first thing say? Solve for y. So we get negative 6y equals negative 5x plus 30. Divide by a negative 6 then. And you should get y equals 5/6 x minus 5. Ben, after you solve it for y, then you make your chart. Pick 3 x values. 0, best one. You can pick 2. If it were me doing this, I would not pick 2. I would pick 6 because I'm multiplying by a fraction, and I don't like denominators, so if I multiply by a number that's divisible by the denominator, we're good. And I could do 12 also, right? Could I do negative 6 if I wanted to? Yeah, you could do either. You don't have to pick these values. You can pick any 3x values. Well, here I'm doing them divisible by 6 because it's going to cancel my 6 out here. I could do 2 and 3. It's just going to give me a fractional answer over here, which sometimes make it harder to graph. Substitute 0 in. 0 times anything is 0, so you should get out -5. Substitute 6 out, or in, excuse me, not out. When you multiply a fraction in a whole number, it's just the numerator, so that would become 30 over 6. 30 over 6 is 5. So then 5 minus 5, 0. Yes, you can do that too. If I use 12 and I multiply across, 5 times 12 is 60. 60 over 6 becomes what? 10. And 10 minus 5 is 5. So you have 3 ordered pairs again. We get 0, -5, 6, 0, and 12, 5. This time you're going to have to go out 12 on your x-axis, but you only have to go up 5 and down on the vertical ends. Clean. Yes. No, you do not have to show the green things. Yes, show your work. And how well did that help you on the quiz? Okay, then show your work. What's up, Kilgore?
So, if I make these charts and I just don't fill out the middle, you're probably not going to give me points for that.
No. Yeah, just show your work. You don't have to put it in the middle.
Y is up and down, right? Yes.
12:05. I'm going to run out of room. My graph wasn't big enough for that.
This is terrible. Makes me feel something.
Complaining is like a rocking chair. It's fun to do, but it gets you nowhere.
Sometimes you
All right, so that's how you have to graph it based off of an XY chart. The other way you have to graph it is using slope-intercept form, and that's when you have y equals mx plus b. So you have to get your equation solved for y. Notice that when you do it as an XY chart, or if you do it in slope-intercept form, it has to be solved for y. Today, solve your equations for y. After you get it solved for y, whatever's attached to the x, that coefficient, that's your slope. Whatever's at the end is your y-intercept. That's where it's crossing the y-axis. Okay, it could be positive, it could be negative. Remember, your slope is rise over run. So if it's 2 over 3, you're going to go up 3 and run, or up 2 and run 3 to the right. If it's a positive number, your slope, then your line should be going uphill when you read left to right. If you get a negative slope, then as you read left to right, your line should be going downhill. These are ways that you can verify that you graphed it correctly. If you're giving me a negative slope, but your line is going uphill, then something didn't happen correctly. Okay. First one and this one, number 2a. Graph the equation -6x plus 3y equals 12 by using slope-intercept form. And I put in parentheses there, you have to solve it for y. So what are we going to do first to solve this for y? And I get 3y equals 6x plus 12. Then I need to divide everything by 3. So y equals 2x plus 4. Put your x value first, because I said so. And that's slope-intercept form. What's the slope of the line? 2, or 2 over 1. Where's my y-intercept? 4, good. Which one do I start with, 4 or 2? 4, good. You're going to start at your y-intercept, so you're going to start up at 4 on the y-axis. My slope is 2. I could go down 2 and left 1, or starting at 4, I can do what? I could go up 2 and right 1. Yes. How am I doing what? What? You get it in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. My slope, m is 2. My b value, the y-intercept, is 4. That's your starting point. So I went to the y-axis at 4, and there's my first point, and then I use my slope from there, which is 2. So I go up 2 to the right 1, up 2 to the right 1. You only need to put 3 down. You don't need to put more than 3. You do not need to label your points. You just have to have 3 points on there. Branson. No, you do not need to do this. You just need to get it in y equals mx. Yes, because lines go on forever. Because it didn't say to graph using a t-chart. It said graph using slope-intercept form. If it says graph using a chart, then you make a chart. If it says graph using slope-intercept, then you use a slope-intercept. We'll just go to the next one. We'll just go to the next one. No, part B. Same thing. You're graphing this using slope-intercept form. Stay with me, please. If you're going to graph using slope-intercept form, then you have to solve it for y, because slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. So you have to get it in that form. 4x plus 10y equals 20. I need to subtract 4x from both sides. 10y equals negative 4x plus 20. And then I need to divide everything by 10. Reduce your fractions. Don't leave it 4 over 10. It becomes 2 over 5. Plus 2. No. Because you can't graph a decimal then, Cade. Your slope has to stay in fraction form so you know how to go up and over. Good question. Slopes are fractions. It is a negative slope. So when we read left to right, Ben, our line should be going downhill. Okay. You don't have to put this on here if you don't want to. Your slope is negative 2/5. Your y-intercept, your starting point, is at 2. Positive 2. So you go to the y-axis and go up to 2. That's where you start. And then since your slope is negative 2/5, you're going to go down 2 and then right 5. You only make one of them negative. You don't go backwards then. Then you can do it again. Go down 2 and then right 5. Or you could go up 2 and left 5, because left would be the negative part. 3 points. Connect your dots, put your arrows, and you should have a downward line because it's a negative slope. It says use a t-table or an xy chart, you make your xy chart. It says slope-intercept form, here you have it. Both ways you need to solve for y.
Paper or like notebook or something?
You have a worksheet on Friday. Last two. Graph each equation. Okay, the last one's here. Part A, my equation is x minus 3 equals 0. What do you think we should do to graph this? Good, get x by itself. So we're going to add 3 to the other side. And our equation is x equals 3. Well, that would be this point here, 3 on the x-axis. But it's supposed to be a line. Good, it's a vertical line that goes through this point. The equation here says x equals 3. That means x must always have a value of 3. And on this vertical line, it does. The y value doesn't matter, but your x value is always 3. Vertical line. B, 2y plus 4 equals 0. What should I do to start graphing this thing? Yeah, solve it for y. When you have two variables, x and y, solve it for y. But if you only have one variable, you got to solve it for that variable. This line is y equals negative 2. So I go to the y-axis at negative 2. What kind of line is it going to go? Horizontal. This horizontal line has a constant y value of -2. My x's change, but your y will always be -2. Horizontal lines, what kind of slopes do they have? 0, good. The slope of a horizontal line is 0. How about the slope of a vertical line? Undefined, good. The way that I always I remember it is like winter skiing. I can ski horizontally, but I definitely can't ski going down a cliff.
Well,
Because your skis would not stay on the cliff, you would tumble and hurt yourself. I can't, I said, that's how I remember it. Okay, good for you guys. Your homework assignment. Page 169, 2 through 16 evens, 33 through 38, and number 40. Please make note of the directions underneath of the assignment up here and write them down. It says for 2 through 8. That's 2, 4, 6, and 8. You need a graph using an XY chart. For 10, 12, 14, and 16, you use slope-intercept form. The book does not say that, so you need to make sure you write that down.